Hi, I'm Doug Austin, and I'm the editor of eDiscovery Today, a daily blog about eDiscovery, information governance, cybersecurity, and data privacy trends, best practices, and case law. Welcome to another edition of eDiscovery Today's Thought Leader interview series, where we interview thought leaders in eDiscovery and related legal technologies. Today, we're conducting another thought leader interview by video, and we have two guests whose companies just announced an exciting technology partnership. Dave Ruel, VP of Product at Hanzo, and Billy Blau, Head of Business and Corporate Development at Asana. Welcome, Dave and Billy.
Thanks, Doug. Good to see you again.
Good to see you, Dave. And good to meet you, Billy.
Good to meet you too.
Earlier today, Hanzo announced that it has joined Asana Partners as a technology partner, bringing enterprise-grade eDiscovery, investigations, and compliance solutions to the Asana application. We'll talk about that announcement, as well as trends in collaboration, eDiscovery of collaboration data, enterprise solutions in the cloud, and more. Billy and Dave, are you ready to get started?
Absolutely.
Ready to go.
Okay, great. So let's start with the partnership. Dave and Billy, from the perspective of each of your companies, why did you enter into this partnership, and what do you think it will mean to your customers? And Dave, I'll start with you.
Okay, sure. So I'll go back. I'll rewind the clock a little bit on what happened. Asana and Hanzo actually had a joint client, and I believe they reached out to somebody on the Asana side and said, we need to collect data, and you guys should be talking to this company called Hanzo. And so it was kind of an interesting genesis, I think, of the entire partnership. That really got the conversation started. And so we began to look at that, and it blossomed into, the action and the partnership that we have announced today. And it's obviously a critical component of eDiscovery with these types of things. And so that was kind of the genesis of all of it. And we kind of jumped at it really quickly because we saw the landscape of where it is. And we'll talk a little bit more, I think, about why it's important for customers and things like that.
Okay, great. Billy?
Yeah, and similar story. We're a very customer-driven company. And so, we have been hearing about Hanzo and some of our customers wanting there to be an integration. So it made a ton of sense for us to invest in it. I think what's been really cool about this partnership so far, though, is we've worked with Hanzo to actually help us develop our APIs, since they're experts in the field, so that we can build the proper APIs to help power their platform for next-gen eDiscovery. So they've been really helpful for us in our development process, and now we're a really early adopter of the APIs to deliver eDiscovery to our joint customer base. So we're super excited about it and have been really pleased with the partnership so far.
Great. All right. Well, yeah, it's exciting, and congratulations to both your companies. It's certainly noteworthy news in our industry, and I'm sure in software in general. So let's talk about industry trends now. And I'll start with you, Billy. With so many remote workers today, certainly managing projects has to be more collaborative and visually intuitive than ever. So how has Asana addressed that need within organizations?
Yeah, I mean, we're just seeing, coming out of the pandemic, that distributed work is here to stay. And so what that means is you've got people working in different locations, people working at home, they're working on projects together, and they need a platform that helps them coordinate all of that effort company-wide with each other. And so what we do is we help large organizations stay aligned by making it very clear of who's doing what by when across the organization, creating what we call a centralized hub for work. And so what this really does is it helps large organizations gain clarity and organizes their work cross-functionally across the entire company. But it also helps them set goals at the top level and then build projects and portfolios and tasks underneath that. So executive management gets a very, very clear view of what everybody's working on, where things are blocked, what's moving quickly, what's moving maybe more slowly. So that they can help prioritize work and distribute work to the proper teams. And so this is all powered by Asana's proprietary work graph data model, which is basically a connected real-time map of all the work being done in an organization. So this is how Asana is sort of helping to solve the distributed work problem. We're in essence a system of record of everything that is happening in an organization and who's doing it. We also connect to hundreds of enterprise applications. So we realize a lot of that work is actually being done in other applications, but those applications are then tied back into Asana and feeding our work graph. So that's a trend that we're seeing is with distributed work, you need more coordination of resources and employees, and we're helping solve that problem globally for some of the largest companies in the world.
That's great. And having managed a lot of projects over the years and some teams, certainly some great information to have at your fingertips like that to understand where you stand, which is really useful. So Dave, obviously eDiscovery is one of my favorite topics. So, people routinely talk about Slack, Teams, and Zoom when it comes to discoverable data. Why do they need to be focusing on discoverable data from platforms like Asana as well?
So I think Billy just kind of laid out why that happens, Doug. It's becoming the place where all the corporate data is getting put into, input into. So we're talking about assigning projects, tracking projects, doing HR, performing HR tasks and things like that. So it really it's across the entire gamut of how people work today. That's where the data is actually ending up. It's where it's living. It's how people are communicating and collaborating. And so if we just naturally look at the progression of how data has to get collected for eDiscovery and internal investigation, it's a source that is absolutely critical to people who use it as their source of truth inside the organization. And so we look at that platform as, and by the way, Hanzo is a big Asana user as well. So we obviously know because it spans our entire company at the end of the day, from HR all the way through engineering. And so we know that when it comes to data, where people are collaborating, where that information is, it's in a place like that. And so these places, these project management tools, all of that is certainly a place that is becoming more discoverable. You have to collect the data. You have to present the data in a format and style that people want to see it in. It is absolutely mission critical that we're able to do this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Make a great point about presenting data, and certainly discovery is about a lot of it's about communications and work product, and where you're going to find that but a platform like Asana. So
Absolutely.
Yep, for sure. So Billy, we obviously Hanzo's now a partner, and Asana has a partnership program that includes integrations with several platforms, including Slack, Teams, Gmail, Outlook, and more, many more actually. What are the goals of the Asana partnership program? And what was Asana looking for in an eDiscovery partner that Hanzo was able to provide?
Yeah, I sort of referenced this before, but we realized that work is being tracked in Asana, but done in other applications. And so the goal of the partner program, which now has over 260 partners in it, is to bring all of the work that's happening in other applications and then reference it and track it and say who's working on it in Asana. And so that's really the premise and the reason why we launched Asana Partners a couple of years ago, is to expand the ecosystem of partners and to deepen those relationships and integrations. And so another key thing that this does for us is a lot of our best customers build workflows in Asana, and a lot of those workflows happen to touch other applications. So they really need to have these integrations handy for them to be able to build end-to-end workflows on the Asana platform. And then where Hanzo comes in is, as we're solving all these problems for our end user customers, we also have IT and compliance that is very, very important for our key CIO buyers. And so what we've done with Hanzo is really, well, first of all, I'll just say we were hearing a lot from our customers, we need more in eDiscovery. And so that's where we started with Hanzo. And so that solves a very real problem for some of our customers that have deployed Asana at scale and now want to attach it to a world-class eDiscovery platform like Hanzo.
Okay, very good. And obviously, Dave, I don't have to tell you that the use of collaboration applications within organizations has skyrocketed in recent years. You probably know that better than anybody. So why is it important to be able to access data from these various solutions within a single platform?
Yeah, I think it's the same reason Billy was talking about having all those partnerships and having the ability to get data in from all these, applications. At the end of the day, we're about that as well, more for the investigative and eDiscovery side of things. But it's the one place that you can now begin to coordinate all the content from all of the different platforms. So whether it's Slack, whether it's Asana, whether it's Jira, Confluence, Google Workspace, all of that data coming to one place. Now, of course, you have a federated search capability, the culling capability, all the great tools at your disposal when all the data is in one place and indexed properly, as it should be, using a single indexer. There's great benefit, obviously, from that. And of course, review platforms, it's the same type of thing that you would hear from a review platform as well. Get it into one location so that you can really accurately search through the information, produce the information that you need to.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's you have so many different sources of data today that you have to deal with. It's good to have it in one place where you can search one time, right?
And it's never ending, Doug, as you mentioned. I mean, the collaboration space just keeps getting larger and larger. And so, it's really funny because, when you're talking to the sales folks or people who are reaching out, you'll hear a platform name and you're like, oh my gosh, I haven't heard that one before. Or, that's a new one. I didn't know they were doing this with that. I mean, it really is one of those things now, that it's almost the point where you're just not that surprised when you hear that a company is using X software to do something. Like, okay, yeah, I can understand.
Sure. Well, job security for some of us in eDiscovery, right? Indeed. So finally, let's go to the cloud for this last question. So Billy and Dave, organizations are gravitating more and more to enterprise solutions in the cloud. So how do you see that trend continuing, and how will trusted enterprise partnerships like the one Hanzo and Asana just announced help organizations maximize the benefits of their enterprise cloud solutions? Billy, I'll start with you this time.
Yeah, I mean, we really see hybrid and remote work models. They're here to stay. And so it's making enterprises move even more quickly into cloud solutions since they're so easily deployed and so quickly. And so, this has been a decade-long trend already, and we expect it to be a trend for a lot longer. So, cloud native solutions will be and have continued to replace on-prem. We see it sort of in the work management space, and we see it in other sectors. And I just believe that's going to be the future, and we'll continue to see that trend for a long time. We take a security by design approach for protecting data. And so we built our platform using best practices for highly scalable and available and secure cloud applications. And so partnering with like a trusted industry leader like Hanzo, we're helping enterprise organizations ensure data protection and meet their most critical compliance needs. And so what that's helping us do is bring all the end user goodness of cloud native applications that are inherently easier to use and easier to stand up, and then putting them under the same security and compliance that on-prem applications have historically had. So we're helping organizations, particularly large ones, move much more quickly to gain value out of the investments they're making in these tools.
Great. Dave, what about from your perspective?
Yeah, I mean, I think Doug, the last time we spoke, it was we had a question around a similar, expansion of enterprise applications.
Right.
And, I think the stat is out there now where enterprises, an average enterprise has got 200 plus SaaS applications. That certainly happened during COVID. And I think everyone saw kind of a lackadaisical viewpoint of security. They just said, well, we need this app to go do this, and we need this app to go do that. We're seeing an expansion and contraction that's been going on. So I think during COVID, we were seeing expansion of more and more SaaS applications. I think we're seeing a bit of a contraction now with the economic hardship that some companies have had. They're going through and kind of weeding out some of the applications where people are like, we're not going to buy a license for that. This other thing's doing that, and so forth. So there's no doubt we're going through these expansion contractions, but I mean, it's here to stay, like Billy mentioned. I mean, the hybrid way of working is it's going to be there, and I don't think it's going to change either. Important for us, of course, is to be able to cover as many data sources as possible, because your last question basically touched on the same thing. Is like someone's going to ask you for X, and if you don't have a solution for it, it puts them in a very bad position if they have to try to go collect data, and try to do investigations, whatever they're trying to do. So we definitely see enterprises growing more and more. We're seeing the data, reaching cloud at an unprecedented rate. So all of that just continues to happen. So at the end of the day, for us, for Hanzo, having partners like Asana, and others, where we're able to really bring best of breed at the end of the day. Because what was interesting, I think, with the partnership was this thing we're talking about, which is a API plus. So it's not just connecting to the APIs and dragging metadata across and indexing the content. We were able to actually build on top of the API using this API plus structure. So we actually pulled in some technology from another product that we have, and we're able to deliver the viewable content like the Asana user was sitting in Asana at the time that they created the content. And so when we look at these types of partnerships, we always try to look for how do we add on top of that, not just an API structure, but actually, what else can you give somebody at the end of the day? And so this viewing capability, I think, is really going to be important for all the clients who have this type of connection and need to see and produce that type of data like it was when it was produced and created.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add one thing to what Dave said, is we're also seeing particularly in our largest customers, they're reducing the number of cloud applications they have, but they're doing that to standardize on certain platforms. And so we've actually seen our business accelerate in some of the larger companies, because what they're doing is they're shutting down some of the smaller other applications that did like things to Asana, and they're standardizing. And we think that trend is going to continue for a long time now.
Sure. Well, it only makes sense. After a while, there's always consolidation in any industry, and the platforms that have kind of become the standards are the ones that people eventually gravitate towards, right?
And I can attest to that, because we just went through the same exercise, Billy. So it's really interesting you mentioned that, because we just went through the same thing. And Asana was the tool that we ended up going with. So I mean, it really is. It's a real case study there.
Sure, absolutely.
That is actually happening. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, so I want to thank my guests, Dave Ruel of Hanzo and Billy Blau of Asana, and congrats, gentlemen, on the partnership announcement. Thanks to you all for being part of the interview. I really appreciate that. And I want to thank all of you for tuning in to another edition of eDiscovery Today's Thought Leader Interview Series. See you next time on the eDiscovery Today Video Network. Goodbye.